Hi, I'm Sandra Oberlies.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another computer repair lesson with Sandra Oberlies, your instructor. We are working on our mini 3D printer build, and we just finished going over all of the inventory of what was in our kits, and now we're going to start our build. So the first thing we're going to work on is we're going to connect part 001, which is your Y-axis support, along with your part 002, which is your standing plate. And you've got the numbered list on here that tells you which these parts are, right? And then from there, we're also going to connect at the same time part 015 and part 016. These are your X-axis supports on the left and the right on the bottom, okay? So what we're going to do, we've got our Y-axis support, and it has two long legs. Those go on the bottom. It's got rail slots that are kind of rounded where your rods are going to go. There's a slot on either side, and then a screw holes, right? On the bottom, it's reseated so that you can get the screw all the way in and the head will lie flush with the bottom. Okay, on the top, we've got a section on one side that's rounded here, kind of a cutout with a round, and the other side has a cutout with a square hole in it, right? And then on the two ramps, we've got this, the ramp on the front. It's just got one little step, little here. The one in the back has some screw holes, little raised things, and the rounded cutout here is in the back. That goes in the back of the printer, okay? So I will hold it like this so that it matches the way you're looking at it. And basically this is going to go on it kind of sitting like this, but I found the easiest way to work on that was to put these two on first, right? And these two, I've got them sitting here, but they're actually upside down. So you're going to flip them over so that the little round circle shelf is on top. It looks almost like a picnic table bench, right? And on the top, you're going to insert two of the M3 nuts. You've got a little bag of M3 nuts. They're very tiny, so when you're pulling those out, make sure you don't drop them because they will get lost on the floor and you won't be able to find them again. All right, so you're going to actually press them into the nut holes on that little bench shelf thing there. Okay. Now I found when I was first doing it, I tried to use my needle nose pliers to kind of push them in. I found that because it was flat and there's some girth to the bench there, I thought that the regular pliers worked a little bit better because they have this rounded gap in here, so when you pull, it lets it go flat on there, and then you just want to squeeze really tight to hold those in there so that they are flush with the part. All right, you're going to do that on both sides of these. All right, and mine right here, my one part is sticking up a little bit, so I kind of need to press it down a little bit more. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get it all the way down. If your little nut holes there are a little bit too tight for the nuts to go in, you might want to take an X-Acto knife and just cut away a little bit of the plastic on the outside edges. Be careful with that. If you don't have an X-Acto knife or you're having a lot of trouble with that, contact me and I've got an X-Acto knife and we can get together and I can help you clean up those parts. You also might want to be able to use a file or something to kind of sand a little bit. That might help, however you want to work that. Okay, so we've got our Y-axis support. It is part number 001, and I am going to take part number 15, okay, and I'm going to set it here. This one actually goes, there's the single hole and then there's the slot. This one goes one on the slot and one on the single hole, and of course the opposite one, number 16, goes on the other side. You're going to connect those with basically two on each side, 14 millimeter. So it's going to be the M3 by 14, about like this. Hard to see. And you're actually going to flip it over. And I found it's easier to do the solid hole first. So So you're going to just kind of slide it in. Now, when I first did this, I have inserted and removed these screws numerous times. You might want to screw it into the individual part first and then pull it out, screw it into this part next, just to make sure that all of the parts screw together evenly and you've got the holes kind of widened and threaded a little bit easier. Like I said, I've done this numerous times, so mine are now pretty sturdy in there. I've got the hex head, so I'm going to use the hex driver, and I'm just going to screw these in. You don't necessarily need to tighten them all down all at once, but when you do get it screwed in, it will eventually go flush with the bottom. I'm going to take the other one in the slot and screw that down. This will pretty much stay set in one spot because the set hole that's by itself holds it in place. And again, this is also reseated in that slot. There's a little shelf in there so that it goes down a little bit further and lies flush. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing with part 16 on the other side. And when you're done, the screws should come through on the other side and work themselves and screw into the nuts that you have inserted on the bottom. And that way it will help to hold the screws in place and hold them steady. Doing the same on this side. Flipping it over, I need two 14-inch screws, not 14 millimeter screws. Start with the one in the single hole. I found it was easier to get it inserted if I started with that particular screw rather than starting with the one on the slot, because otherwise the piece below it starts to move and the slot moves up and down and it's harder to keep it steady. And then as you get it tightened in there, you can see it screw into the nut on the other side. Tighten down both sides evenly and it should ride flush on the table. Next, so this is the front, this is the back. I'm going to take the part 002, okay? You've got the flat side is going to go towards the front, and the side that has the holes, the extra pieces are going to go towards the back. And they basically go right on top of the slot, and there's one screw each, again 14 millimeters on either side. And again, you've also got the nuts embedded into the nut holes on the top of this piece. And so then you can flip it over, screw it in, and you don't necessarily want to tighten it all the way down just yet. You want to get both screws in there, tighten it down most of the way so that the screws are there, and then once it's together, then you will tighten both sides up. Okay, as you get this tighter, you will notice that the screw ends start to come through at the nut. You're going to make sure that these are flush with the parts 15 and 16 that you've already installed, okay, so that you push them together, and then you're going to tighten them down. And the nuts on the bottom will help keep those screws steady. Okay, so we've got the frame put together with parts 15 and 16 is the X-axis support for the bottom, and we've got the standing plate that kind of holds everything up, facing forward. Okay. The next part is we're going to put on, we've got the Z-axis top, and we've got the handle and the hinge. Now I have put the hinge on there already. I'll take it off. It's got a little pin on here, okay, on either side with a hole in the handle, and you have to scooch this on there, but it's right around the same width that it needs to be, and so you got to kind of squeeze it to get it to work, to get it on there. And then eventually it might be a little bit tight in the beginning, but it should be able to open and close. All right, you want to get that on there first, because once you screw it onto the part, it won't be flexible, so you won't be able to get the handle on there. Okay, now this is going to go together in 3 pieces. So we're going to start with here the Z-stop part 012. Okay, goes on first, and it's got a little shelf on the bottom that actually pins down onto the top so that it's flush on top. Right, you can see it from the side there, so that little shelf is what holds it on there. There are 5 screws. We're going to do 3 of them right now, and then the hinge goes on the other side. Okay, and it will line up with those 5. All right, we're going to use 10 millimeter screws. But it's too hard to try and hold all three of these pieces together while you're screwing. So what you're going to do, set that down. You're going to get your 3 10mm screws, and I suggest you start, I'm not doing the end ones yet, so you're going to start in here and get this lined up with the standing plate and screw it in just so that the screw ends right at the edge of that standing plate, so that you can feel it maybe sticking out just a little bit, so that when you go to line it up with the hinge, you'll be able to see that. Now again, these parts I screwed in and out multiple times. You're going to want to screw it into this piece by itself, then screw it into the standing plate by itself, then screw it into this place by itself, just to make sure that the screw holes are set, and then you can put the parts together. And I'm going to do the end here, and I'm putting my finger on the end of that so that I can feel when the screw reaches the end of that block. So I can see it's just sticking out maybe 1/2 millimeter, just enough so that I can feel it and I can line it up with the holes on the hinge when I get there. Put this middle screw in. All right, and again, it's sticking out just barely. Okay, now I'm lining this up. This is part 41. I'm going to line that one hole up with that one and start screwing this one in. Again, I'm going to screw it in enough so that it holds it in place, but I'm not going to get it tightened down until all 3 screws are in place. And then I'll do the other side, and of course the screws are, whoops, see, I didn't quite screw it enough, so it came out. So you're going to want to get it in enough so that it's holding those parts in place. You might want to kind of squeeze the pieces together enough so that as that screw is going in, it's got something to grab. We'll go with this one on the other end next. Oh yeah, this is not connecting very well. I think I've damaged my screw hole, so I'll start over here. When you get into the last piece, the screw tension gets stiffer, so it's harder to go. I think I've stripped the one on the one side. And then the center one, I noticed the first couple of times I did it, if I didn't hold it together carefully when I was screwing the screw in, it pushed the hinge out and caused it to warp instead of actually screwing into the hole. So again, that's another reason to make sure that you've used the screws and put them into the hole to begin with, to get that prepared before you try and connect all the pieces together. The screw holes on the Z-stop are reseated, so you can get those screw heads to lie flush in there. There we go. Now it's tightened up, it's grabbed the part in there. And you want to tighten it up. Don't tighten it up so much that you strip the holes, but you want to get it tight. You don't want your printer coming apart. And the 10mm screws are enough to go through the different layers that we've got without going too far into the hinge. Right? The next part you want to do, we've got our display case that also has the hinge and it meets up with this one. You can kind of set this on here for now. Eventually we're going to want to put something in there, a rod or a paper clip or something to hold it, but I've just got it setting on here, and it should basically be a little shelf here. Your display electronics LCD screen is going to go in here, and it'll be up, you can move it up and down, and there's a spot for the knob that you will be turning it on and off and adjusting your settings with that. Next, we've got from onto here, we've got our back plate. Now this one has got multiple extruding things on the inside and flat on the outside, and it's part 070. This is going to line up. We've got these 2 tabs here and then the top tabs here. These 2 parts here will fit into the little slots there and allow these 2 pins to line up. And then again, we've got screw holes on the bottom of our Y-axis support that will line up with the bottom of that standing plate. And we're going to start here. We're going to use 2 10mm screws on either side here. And again, check the screw holes before you start trying to connect the parts, or you might be fighting with it for a while. This one doesn't have recessed holes. The pan heads will be rounded on the outside. You notice mine is starting to separate, which means I need to make sure I get that pulled in tight. So when the screw goes the rest of the way in, it pulls those parts together. Tighten both sides up evenly. And then you're going to use two 20mm screws to screw the back plate onto the Y-axis support. And these do have recessed holes, so this will ride flush on the bottom one. And make sure it's getting lined up with the screw hole. I've got it just lined up now. Get it going into the second part, and then the stiffness of the tension gets a little bit tighter when you get into the second part. Okay, this one needs longer screws because this part is a little bit longer and it's got to get all the way into that Y-axis support. And once it gets in there, you got to make sure it lines up with that hole. And it looks like it's connecting. It's not wiggling around anymore. And then I will tighten both sides down evenly. So I've got this one, I'll tighten this one again, and basically doing it a little bit at a time so that they go in smoothly and evenly. And again, the screws are now flush with the back. Okay, so now we have our initial frame. Now we are ready to start assembling the Y-axis, which will be on the next video. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.